They didn't knock gently. They stormed in like they owned the place, and in that moment, everything changed for her forever. This video will reveal the shocking truth behind why strangers entered a sick mother's home and how, just minutes later, everything turned upside down in a way no one expected. Margaret sat quietly near the window, wrapped in a soft blanket, her breathing slow but steady. The house was silent, filled with the calm of a late afternoon. Her son, Ethan, had just stepped into the kitchen when the front door burst open. Voices filled the room, firm, urgent, unfamiliar. Margaret looked up, startled, her fragile hands tightening around the edge of the blanket. She didn't understand what was happening. None of it made sense. Ethan rushed back, his heart pounding. Strangers stood inside his home, speaking in official tones, scanning the room as if searching for something. A complaint had been made, a serious one, but Ethan knew instantly. Something was wrong, and across the street, behind a quiet window, someone was watching it all unfold. The room filled with tension as the strangers began asking questions, but their words didn't match reality, and that's where everything started to shift. They spoke of concern, of reports, of possible neglect. The words hung heavy in the air, each one more confusing than the last. Margaret looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with quiet fear. She didn't speak, but her expression said everything. Ethan stayed calm. He had to, he explained gently, carefully, that his mother was under regular care. That she had everything she needed. That nothing they were saying was true, but the strangers weren't convinced. Not yet. They had been told a different story. Outside, the sunlight remained warm and peaceful. But inside, the air felt tight. Ethan's mind raced. He knew this wasn't random. Someone had made that call, someone had decided to step into their lives without knowing the truth, and as he looked toward the window, he saw her again, watching, waiting, confident, but that confidence wouldn't last much longer. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward. This wasn't just about today, it had been building for months. The truth behind this moment was deeper than anyone realized, and once it came out, everything would begin to change. He explained the situation calmly. The complaints. The unnecessary visits. The constant pressure from someone who believed she knew better. Margaret had lived there peacefully for years. She never caused problems. She never asked for anything, but somehow, she had become a target. The strangers listened more carefully now. Their expressions softened slightly as the story unfolded. Ethan showed them medical documents, appointment records. Everything was in order, everything was clear. Across the street, the woman shifted uncomfortably. Her certainty began to fade. Margaret remained quiet, her presence calm but powerful. She didn't need to defend herself, the truth was already doing that, and slowly, the atmosphere began to change. Something shifted in the room, the tone changed. The questions softened. And for the first time, doubt appeared on the faces of those who had entered so confidently. This was the moment everything started turning around, and the truth was finally being seen. One of them stepped aside, reviewing the information carefully. Another looked at Margaret again, this time with understanding instead of suspicion. Ethan stayed still, letting the silence speak. Outside, the woman who made the call stepped closer to her window. Her expression tightened, she could feel it, control was slipping. Inside, the realization was settling in, this wasn't neglect, this wasn't a problem, this was a misunderstanding. Or something more, and as the final piece of information was checked, the energy in the room shifted completely. The focus was no longer on Margaret, it was on the person who made the call. They turned toward the window. That single moment changed everything. The truth had surfaced, and it was clearer than anyone expected. Ethan didn't need to say much. The evidence spoke for itself. Margaret sat quietly, her presence calm, her dignity untouched. The strangers now understood. They had been given a story that wasn't real. Outside, the woman stepped back, her confidence gone. The certainty she once held now replaced with doubt. The situation had reversed completely. A calm voice broke the silence. There's no issue here. Simple words, but powerful. Ethan exhaled slowly. Margaret closed her eyes for a moment, as if letting the tension leave her body. The moment had passed, but its impact remained, and across the street, realization had already begun to settle in. The street felt quieter now. What started with urgency had turned into something far more reflective. This was the moment she understood her mistake, and it came sooner than she expected. The woman stepped away from the window, her posture uncertain. Her actions had consequences, and now she could see them clearly. Inside, the strangers spoke calmly, offering reassurance instead of concern. Ethan nodded, his expression steady. Margaret looked at him, a soft smile forming. She didn't need words, everything had been said. The situation had changed, not through anger, not through force, but through truth, and that made it even more powerful. It ended quietly, but the lesson stayed. What began as a moment of fear had turned into something far deeper and far more meaningful. Margaret returned to her peaceful routine, her home once again filled with calm. Ethan stayed close, his presence steady, his trust in truth stronger than ever. Across the street, the window remained closed. The silence spoke louder than anything else, because sometimes, the biggest mistakes aren't loud. They're quiet, and they stay with you, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.